Hey, everybody. Welcome to this next conversation with an amazing person named Evans. And I'll let you introduce yourself, Evans. But I just want to thank everyone for taking the time to listen in. We have an amazing guest here who really exemplifies what service and entrepreneurship are and how they come together. And yeah, I just think it's beautiful. And so Evans, I'll let you introduce yourself, who you are, what you do, and all that good stuff.
Oh, thank you, James. I appreciate it. You just popped up on my phone saying you were live. There you go.
Nice.
So thank you again for having me. Grateful for the opportunity. My name's Evans Putnam. You can see in there, I put Evans Servepreneur Putnam. I'm the creator of the Servepreneur Blueprint and founder of the Servepreneur Movement. Been doing this business thing for, online business and marketing for like 20 plus years now. And I feel like all those years have paid off and brought me to this place where I just really love working with people who, want to make more money, but also to change more lives by bringing their greatest work into the world to make this a better place. So I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you got it. And we'll share it at the end. But I think you said there's also a special group that you have that, in case anyone wants to, learn more about you and what this is all about. Where can they find that?
Yeah, actually, it's called the Servepreneur Movement. So it's spelled just like Servepreneur Movement, and it's on Facebook. We have a new Facebook community where we're building a community of like-minded entrepreneurs who just want to show up a little differently and do things a little differently. And so they can find it on Facebook, and you can also just go to servepreneur.com or servepreneurmovement.com, excuse me, and it'll forward you to the group. So come join us. We just started it, just launched like a week ago, and we're starting to get some really cool folks in there, and there'll be a great place for us to collaborate, to grow together, to find out how we can support each other, and just bring the community together so that we can get out and serve people at a higher level.
Yeah, absolutely. And for anyone listening, Evans is amazing, and it definitely is a person of great service. And so I highly recommend that you go check out that group, because I think you'll find a lot of great things. And my intention for today's conversation is really to ask Evans about what he notices the distinction between typical business and where actually service and entrepreneurship come in, and how that bridge happens and what his journey was like. And so for all of you listening, I hope you really appreciate this. I hope you're able to download this into your own experience and really take away this wisdom. And Ellie and I just moved, so if you hear any echoes, I apologize for that, but I'm hoping the mic is doing a good job. And yeah, let's dive in. Evans, like how did this even originate, right? Like this idea of the Servepreneur movement.
Well, it sort of came through a long process, right, of everything that I've done through my career and been online space. I've found, well, there's multiple facets, right? So if we're going to go to where it really came from, it didn't come from me. Part of my daily routine is to meditate. And I remember having this sort of divine inspiration that just came to me. And the actual blueprint, the Servepreneur Blueprint, even though I said I'm the creator of that, it's actually came through me, not out of me, right? So,
Yeah.
so I would say that's where the sort of the inspiration came. But then there was also, I guess, just my reputation in the online space has been one of always being of service, right? I always try to find a positive outcome and opportunity in every conversation with every person. And I always found that it's more important to lead with service first and then bring value to people. And if it works out that it ends up being a client, a customer, or a JV partner or anything like that, that's great. But it's always about leading, finding how can I help you? How can I serve you? because I find that the cycle of abundance is created that way, right? If we just hold on to what we want out of the interaction, and we sort of hold tight to that and think, what's in it for me? That's living more from the scarcity mindset. So it blocks the abundance for everybody involved. So, and this is, it's a way that I would have to give a lot of credit to my past business partner and friend, also Pat Hyben, who I worked with on Real Estate Rockstars with Pat Hyben, because he showed up in the world very much like that, and being around that, because at the time when I started working with him, I was very much more of a transaction oriented entrepreneur, because I did things for contracts. People paid me money. I gave them a result. And I didn't really see the synergy of, focusing on more of the relationship and the transformation and the serving, which is what I have to give a lot of credit to Pat and being involved with him and his partner in that business, because a lot of that rubbed off on me. And I think it just brought out what was in me, but had
Yeah.
just didn't know there was that way of doing things, right? I grew up in a space of my father, like, being a business person, and I always thought of business as just transaction, right? You just trade something for something
Right.
else, you get money, and never looked at it as long-term relationships and the way that you can actually bring your purpose and show up in the world in a way that it makes the world a better place and changes more lives.
Yeah, I think I really appreciate you, sharing that background. And I think it's something that's really special because in my experience, for myself, at least on my journey and just what I've noticed, typically people fall on two ends. It's like the transactional type. And then it's on the other side where they just kind of keep giving and giving and giving, but they actually don't know how to transform that into business, which I've been on both sides of that. And I know
Mm-hmm.
for me, I think what was originally kind of confusing was like how to have that balance. And I always remember the metaphor of a car, and I share this with my clients as well now. And it's kind of like what's driving the car, because we want money in the back seat and service in the front seat. That's the way that I think of it. And that's what really helped me shift the relationship. So that way, whoever I'm interacting with or whatever it might be, it's been an element where I'm able to ask myself, what's driving this car? Is it the service, or am I just trying to do a transaction?
Mm-hmm.
And so that, I know that really helped me. Is there anything in your journey or that you learned from that mentor of yours that I guess, like a distinction that came up for you, or what, I guess, was it an easy shift for you, or was it more of a more challenging shift?
I think it was more challenging at first because you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
Right. And so then as I got around him, and I remember going to one of my first marketing events and thinking that it was going to be all these people up there talking about, like how much money they made. Because these are the things that, you're getting projected at you on a daily basis a lot of times,
Absolutely.
where it feels very, what's in it for me? It's all about me. Look at what I have, those kind of things. Right. And so
Yeah.
I go to this marketing conference, and all these people are getting up on stage talking about how, they're telling stories of people whose lives they've been changed by working with them. Right. And like all these,
Wow.
I think at that point, it sort of clicked in my mind, that, okay, there's a human aspect of business that we often
Mhm.
forget, right? It's like, oh yeah, that's right. I'm actually helping someone who's then helping other people, and it's creating that positive ripple effect. So to me, I think that a lot of it was just, not knowing what you don't know, and then sort of having it shown to you, but then being open to receive it too, and thinking, oh, I sort of, and it felt aligned when I felt it at first. Actually, sitting in that conference, that was actually the sort of tipping point where I felt like almost had that tap on the shoulder that was like, hey, this is what you're supposed to be doing, creating more impact for others, serving other
Yeah.
people at a higher level, changing more lives. And so the funny thing is that I came back from that event with my business partner. We were sort of struggling at the time, and then from that event forward, we got some coaching, started blowing up the business. But all along, I was thinking, this is not my place. I'm supposed to do something else. So I had to sort of have that uncomfortable conversation and step away from that business, even while it was successful, like about a year and a half into it. So it just, but it was okay. Everything worked out. And, it was just one of those things where you just learn by doing and learn by example, because I'd never been around those type of people. And I think that's the important thing for people watching this too, for each of us to remember, is that we can choose the tribe, the group of people that we want to be around. And we can
Right.
find that group, right? And we also need that group, because this can be really lonely standing in front of your computer all day talking into a microphone to you, James, like separated, right? We
Yeah.
need that community. And you can choose that community. You don't have to just do what everybody else is doing. You can follow your vision, your purpose, your passion, and look for people that fit what you're looking to do, and that believe the same things as you. So I think that's one thing that we often miss out on when we're like in the Facebook world and on social media, when we're being hit with the same, because it's amazing when you sort of start talking to people that are outside of your news feed.
Yeah.
They perceive the world a lot differently than what you think is happening through the news
Right.
feed, right? So it's amazing. I would say explore, right? Think, if you feel a little constraint, like, business doesn't feel fun, it doesn't feel light, it doesn't feel joyful, maybe there's a reason why. Maybe you're just in the wrong, not your mission is wrong, but maybe you're in the wrong space, and you need to find the right community and the right people
Mm.
to be around that help you expand and grow.
Yeah, and is that a contrast that you notice between the Servepreneur movement and being of service, versus more the transactional element is the experience in the business?
Yeah, I think so. I like to think so. For me, it's all about, how can I add value to this person first, right? So for me, like, and I get to be 100% transparent too. I believe I've heard Dan Sullivan say this before too. For those of you who may know who Dan Sullivan, amazing coach who I really resonate with, but I believe it was him who said, you should always, instead of thinking about how can I sell James something, it's like, how can I add value to James? And when you start
Right.
thinking of it that way, it becomes less transactional and more, relationship and transformational. And I think that's the main difference, is that, and I'm not saying that either, sometimes people just don't know. They're just like thinking that, hey, this is the way you always do business. But I believe there can be a better way to do it when you put the other person first, and come from a place of service. But I also think that, as you mentioned this, touched on this earlier, you have to be a little, you have to make sure you're not over giving and forgetting about yourself as well. You have to be able to give and receive. It's a cycle. It's not a
Yeah.
one way, it's not everything is going that way by serving, because pretty soon you won't have anything to serve with anymore.
Right. Yeah. I think that's really awesome. And, as people are stepping into this, I imagine, this is different than, because I think when oftentimes we look at social media, people use the word followers, right? Like, oh, I got this many followers.
Mm-hmm.
This sounds different, right? This element of, you're not trying to get X amount of followers. Your intention is to really be of service. And like you were saying, add value. How do you, and maybe you go into this in the group. I know for me, in my journey, there's always been an element of kind of like bandwidth, if that makes sense,
Mm-hmm.
like how much I'm able to be of service, or some ideas of, maybe how many people I'm able to tend to.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what would your take be on, if someone's going through that, maybe they are someone of service, but they have a concern on like, how do you not necessarily reach so many people, but be of service to so many people? Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think a lot of it, that sort of goes back to what's your model of delivery, right?
Mm,
So you have different levels that you can deliver. You can be very, like I have a lot of clients because I come from the podcasting background too, as well, as you know, and that's because one of the things that I specialize in is helping coaches and consultants grow their businesses through podcasts, whether it's behind the mic as a host or on the other side as a guest. And for me, and I had a client one time, very service oriented, amazing human, loves what she does, just has this huge heart. And I know it's a struggle when you're, like what you're talking about, capacity. What's the capacity? And I had
right.
to remind her, I was like, you serve so many people through your weekly podcast that is one of the top 0.5% podcasts in the world. That's being of service on a huge scale, right? And it's not taking too much energy because you're just doing it through the podcast. And then you bring that back a step. And then she has people that come into her group, her Facebook group. I'm like, you serve them by going live once or twice um, a week. And then from there, you have people that are customers who maybe buy
Mhm.
like one of her lower priced courses or things like that. She's serving them by creating an asset that's able to help that person and change their lives. And then she has a group program. So now you're serving, so it's going from wide to narrow, but
Yeah.
you're creating a massive wave. We often say ripple effect, but to me, it's like a tsunami with the amount of people that she's actually touching on a regular basis. So I think a lot of what I run into with a lot of coaches that do have big hearts and big positive messages and missions, a lot of them do a lot of one-on-one. And I used to be a personal trainer, and I would get stuck where it's like, how am I going to, I've only got so many hours in a day. So you have to look at
Mhm.
the model. How am I going to deliver? And you can, by being a guest on a podcast, you are affecting a lot of lives. You're serving in a way that's really big. So you have to sort of step back and have a different perspective. It doesn't have to be the person that you're working with one-on-one. And that one person you connect with on a podcast, or that one client that's your group coaching program, and then they're going out, and generally they're like you. So they're going out and probably doing something similar. So now you've affected not one person, but then the people that they also affect and help. So to me, I think you just have to sort of look at your overall thing and, be proud that if you're doing these things, it may not feel as direct of a reward as you get in a one-on-one situation or with
Mhm.
group coaching, but you're really affecting a lot of people's lives. So to me, I find that's the best way to do it, is just get out there and share your message and shine in a way that attracts people to you and affects their lives positively.
Yeah, I love that. And I always appreciate that reminder. And it makes me think of, especially, and you may get this as well when you talk about service, because sometimes there's the people that, they're like, oh, I am always of service, right? But I never get anything back. And so I think it's, like you said, sometimes it's not as measured, and if we're wanting something back, it's that's not really service, right? Like the
Mhm.
idea of service is really giving without that expectation, and receiving is often just the byproduct of that. um,
Mhm.
what would you say to someone who maybe they have an idea, or they have a talent or skill, or they do have that service oriented heart? um, how would you recommend that they start getting that message out? I know you do a lot in podcasting. Yeah, if someone was first starting, or maybe they're wanting to just expand, what would you recommend?
Well, one thing I like to share with people, because I'm pretty, we actually had a discussion about this recently, is that I recommend, because a lot of people would come to me because of my background and be like, hey, I want to start a podcast and get going. I'm like, that's great. But what I would also start thinking about is maybe go ahead and start guesting on other shows first, because you're going to be speaking to an audience of maybe one or two through your own podcast at first.
Yeah.
But what I share with people, I'm like, look, let's get you out there in front of people. Start sharing your message, right? Just shine. And that's actually part of what came to me once in meditation, was just that concept of shining to attract an effect. Because the thing that most people don't think of is that if you have the message and you're holding it, you're actually creating a space and an energetic alignment of scarcity, right? So just by going, even if it's just doing a Facebook reel or doing a Facebook live, you're actually starting the cycle of abundance by shining your message out there. But I would always tell people, and I've made this mistake to myself, but because it's tough to start something and grow the audience, it's like, start taking your message out to other people's audiences. Let those people who are affected in the right way and attracted to you come over into your world. And to me, that's the best way to start, right? But it's really just to start, and to also remind yourself that what you have to share is important. What you have to share is valuable. What you have to share is powerful. And there's nobody else out there like you. So if you do start a podcast, if you do go to speak, imposter syndrome can creep up a lot of times. And especially like, it's daunting. Like, well, how many YouTube channels are already out there? Or is anybody going to even care that I do one? How many podcasts are already out there? Millions. Is anybody going to care? And the answer is yes. Right? Because it's you that they are attracted to, your authentic self, your story that you're sharing. So to me, it's like the whole point of like being a servepreneur is getting it out there, right? To change lives, bringing your greatest work, your unique ability out into the world, because somebody out there needs it. And one of the most powerful things that'll happen to you, I'm speaking of one of my clients now, I'm telling her story. She was doing her podcast and it's new, and she's thinking, oh, there's probably not a lot of people hearing this. And she was at an in-person event and someone came up to her and they actually just told her, like, I heard your story. I heard what you shared. It was like the most impactful thing. It gave me the courage to finally speak up about something very traumatic, and shifted that person's life. One person. And that one shift that and that thing that she felt, she was like, it gave her the feedback she needed, that she needed to get louder and start speaking more. So to me, I think that's just the important thing, is just getting started and know that what you have to share is valuable and somebody out there needs to hear it. Even if there's just one person that you could change that one person's life, it's worth stepping out of your comfort zone and stepping into that place, because it gets easier and easier and easier and easier the more you do it.
Yeah. Wow. I feel like just like 3 takeaways from what you're sharing, and I really appreciate the picture that you painted. One is that they really don't need to try and do something different. They are the difference, just they themselves and their journey and their own communication. The other piece is shining the message, like you were saying, and really sharing that, and doing that amongst people who appreciate that message and people who appreciate them, because that's going to help expand. Like people want. It never works if you're in a group of people who don't want what you have to share. And so making sure they're around people who really appreciate them for who they are and their wisdom and what they're sharing.
Yeah.
I really
that.
love that.
That's a great point. Yeah, definitely. It's, you can be very disheartened sometimes when you feel like you're not connecting with people, when people aren't responding the way you're sharing. But you just made the point. That's a perfect point. Sometimes your message is not going to be for everybody. Right. So there are people out there that are waiting to hear it, and they want to hear it. And to me, that's the definition of, being one of the definite parts of being a servepreneur. The actual Servepreneur Blueprint, I know that we often here, how many times have you heard people, like, especially it's huge in the entrepreneurial world now, but people are always saying, you must be and then do and then have,
Yeah.
right? Which I agree partially with, but for me, the way the Servepreneur, what came to me and the way the pillars of the Servepreneur Blueprint are be, do, give, and grow,
Mm.
right? Not give
Yeah.
away, but give, because be, do, have to me stops the cycle,
Yeah.
right? Be, do, give, and then grow are the four main pillars of the Servepreneur Blueprint. Because when you be who you need to be, and then you do that thing that is special to you, your unique ability, the way you show up in the world, and then give what comes to you, but give value, right? And that helps you grow, that helps everybody else grow, and it keeps the cycle of abundance growing.
Yeah. Wow. That's magnificent. And I really love this, and I love that you've created a community to really bring these people together and help them. Who would you, I guess, for anyone that might be listening, who would you say that this community is for, or how would you describe that type of person?
Yeah, I mean, it's purpose-driven entrepreneurs, people that just really want to build a business that's a force for good, right? A business that is about impact. We've heard all these words before, but it's the same thing, right? We all have that
Mhm.
feeling, that calling that, if not speaking of me directly, but that person that's feeling something is like, I feel like I have something that I need to share. I think it'll help somebody. That to me, whether you're starting out brand new, maybe you're sitting, some of my clients who I've worked with, many of them they're, a little bit older like myself. They've been in the 9 to 5 world, the corporate world. And then they had that moment of sort of that silent whisper, that tap on the shoulder that was like, you're meant for something else. There's something else that you're meant to do. But if you have that feeling, if you're like, maybe you have a business now and you want to find more ways to get out there and change more lives. We talk a lot about strategy and business strategy as well. So it's not just a group where you come in and we're just like talking about, oh, let's just serve and serve and serve. We're actually going to grow together. We're going to use the business strategies that have been developed through the years, through what I've done to help grow that business. Because for me, my goal is for everybody to win, because if they all win, they're changing more lives. They're making the world a better place. And for me, I tell everybody I have a selfish reason. It's funny, the Servepreneur has a selfish reason behind this, but my selfish reason is my daughter. My daughter's growing up. I want her to grow into a world that's a better place than it is now. And the only way to continue expanding and moving the world in the right direction is to have groups of people like ourselves who are out there bringing their unique ability and their passion and their purpose into the world and changing other lives and just creating that, raising the vibration. So anybody that fits those are perfect. If you have a serve first mentality, if you're a coach, a consultant, business owner, maybe, like I said, you're still in the 9 to 5, but you're trying to find ways to get out there and do good. Maybe you run a B corporation or you have a nonprofit, any of those, right? It's all starting with the serving and the impact and the purpose. And you want to be a force for good in the world.
Yeah. And so it sounds like no matter what somebody's age is and no matter where they're at in their journey, these foundations, these principles will really help them not only shift things into more of a service oriented and giving nature, but there's also the principles built in there for their business, which I think
Mm-hmm.
is really special, because I think, like we were talking about before with the transaction style, I think a lot of times in business programs, it's kind of structured around the transactions and just do this tactic or do this strategy. And, just from knowing you, I imagine, as people enter this, they'll realize that it's not a special tactic or strategy. It's literally a way of being, like you're talking about, and a
Yeah.
way of living that transforms their life and business. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's more of the principles than just a hack or a strategy, because those change. I mean, we've seen it all the
Every
time.
day.
When I feel like just a few weeks ago, like that, what was it, Threads? Everybody was like, "Oh, you got to learn how to do Threads," and I'm surprised there weren't like a million new programs out on like how to
Yeah.
maximize Threads to make $1 million, right? But
Yeah.
it's all about the principles. And the other part, like that, to me, the Servepreneur Blueprint is like how you show up in the world, right? It's like a way of being, like you're sharing. And within that, there's also what I have is it's called the infinite impact method, which are principles around how to grow your business no matter what level you're on. And once again, those actually came to me in meditation too. And I remember the moment when it happened, because I jumped up and ran in here to my whiteboard and like mapped out this entire thing and started teaching it to this crowd of thousands who didn't exist. It was just the blinds and probably my cat George and the dog Jelly Bean here were probably part of
Yeah.
that audience. But that infinite impact method is also, it's principle based. It's that is like rise into your highest authentic self, shine to attract and affect, simplify to take quantum leaps, and serve to change lives. It's the 4 steps. And then you take the strategies and tactics and you build them in to that flow, that infinite impact method, and multiple, because everybody does things differently. You don't have to say, hey, this is the only way to grow your business, right? It's like, oh, webinars are the only way. Everything else is horrible. No, it's like you choose the right tactic and the right strategy that fits your best self and your authentic self, the way
Mm-hmm.
you want to do business. And then you fit it into a simple principle based business model that works no matter where you are in the journey. Because when it actually came to me, James, instead of going from A to Z in a linear fashion, this infinite impact method was shaped like an infinity symbol, because no matter what happens, as soon as your business raises to a new level, you're back to the beginning again, where you have to rise into that next version of yourself, right? That next highest version.
Right.
And then you have to shine in a new way. You have to simplify your business to one thing that gets the results. And then you serve more people. So every time you're growing and changing. So that's the vision that came to me. And that fits inside of sort of this circle, which is the Servepreneur Blueprint. So it's the way of being. So to me, it's just very powerful when it's principle based, because anyone can fit into that and they can find their own way. And it's not cookie cutter. It's more
Mm-hmm.
customized and collaborative with you as the entrepreneur.
Wow, this is great, especially because I've coached in many different programs, and I've participated in many different programs, and a lot of times what happens is people do have these cookie cutter models, that you mentioned, and I myself have experienced it, and I've seen other participants experience it, where the coach or someone wants them to do something, and they're looking, they're saying, but that's not me, like that's not my style, or that's not how I want to do it. And I think the fact that you're operating off of these principles and they're allowed to tailor it to their natural rhythm and just how they operate in the ways that they want to be of service is, I think, something really innovative, really special in our industry.
Mm.
And yeah, I'm so grateful for you, and I'm so grateful that you've created this, because it's an amazing group of people that you're bringing together.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. And I'll share, is it okay if I share something I heard one time that sort of, it was from Elijah Bowie. He's a great entrepreneur, this really cool guy. And he shared something around strategy. And I
Yeah.
was like, the way he shared it, I was like, oh my gosh, it hit me, because first of all, I used to be a basketball coach, and this is sort of, he used a basketball analogy. So I was like, maybe I was the one that got it. And everybody else is like, oh, whatever, this doesn't make sense. But he was talking about strategies. Like, you can have this amazing strategy, right, that will work for, you have 2 teams, you give them the same exact strategy, and it's already been proven to be successful. But one team, they're playing each other, and the one team just gets, destroyed. They get beat by like 30, 40 points. And it's because one team, everybody on that team is 6'7" and taller. And the other one, they're all like 5'10", like myself, and smaller. But they're doing the same exact strategy. Why are they not getting the same result? It's like, well, because you have to look at the individuals, right, within that strategy. What are their skill levels? What are their nuances? What are their characteristics? And to me, when he shared that story, it was like an aha moment where I was like, that makes sense. Not everybody is made for every strategy. And if you are not as experienced as someone who has that same strategy and don't have the same skill level yet, you haven't developed it, then you're going to think, oh, this strategy is horrible. It doesn't work, when it could work, right? So I think, to me, having more of a principle-based, open-minded business model where, yes, all these different things and tactics, email marketing works. It's great. Learn it at the right time, right? This works. It's great. Learn it and use it at the right time. But you don't have to feel like just because everyone's doing one thing that you have to do that too. And that's the only way. And I think that's where the problem comes in. And I know I've experienced that myself. And you get very caught up. And I was so glad that when the word simplify popped up in that meditation as part of the infinite impact method, because it reminded me, we can get caught up in like chasing every different tactic and strategy when you really just need one, and you need to focus on that one and make a choice. And if it feels aligned, go forward with it. And if it doesn't work the first time, don't chase the next one. Look at it and think, okay, why did this not work? What could be refined? What am I learning from this? What's the lesson from it? And take that lesson. I actually heard this morning on a podcast that I think it was Kobe Bryant had shared something about how he liked losing. Right now, he wasn't happy with losing. He didn't want to lose, but he looked at losing as a blessing, a reason to get better. So when he lost a game or somebody beat him at, whatever, maybe the guy he was guarding scored more points on him or whatever, he was like, it removes complacency if you look at it from the right perspective, and it gives you the opportunity to think about, okay, what are the possibilities for me getting better, and how do I do that? So I think that's the thing that most people, when you have you're trying so many tactic strategies and just changing things all the time, you never give yourself the opportunity to enjoy the losing and get better from it and continue to move forward. So I think you need coaches and mentors and people in your life that remind you that, like, hey, just stick with this. Just stick with this for a while. And don't let the first sign of defeat push you back and make you think that it was you. It's just, hey, maybe you just need to change a few things here or there. And the next time it might be, success beyond your wildest dreams.
Yeah. Wow. I love that share. And, it might sound silly, but that sounds even helpful as Ellie and I have moved into this new house, because it looks like a bomb went off, and, we're figuring out what we want to, redo and where to start. And so even that idea, just applying it to the house and life, and some of that reflection that, the way that we handled stuff in the past might not be the way that we want to approach this place. And so,
right.
The
possibilities are endless now for you too. So you can do anything.
They really are. Have you, it's not basketball, but have you ever watched the show Ted Lasso?
No, I have not. That's one that I find myself I'm a little bit scared by it, because I know I'm going to probably start watching it and then not be able to turn it off. So from what I've heard.
Okay. It's really good. I think you'll especially like it as both a literal, coach and a business coach. But there's definitely moments in there where it relates to the story that you said. I don't want to ruin it for anybody, especially since it's fairly newer. But I think you'd really like it.
Well, okay, my family is out of town this weekend, so maybe I'll find a few hours. I might have to start diving into it, because it's been there in the back of my mind. Like, I really think I need to watch this. But I haven't yet because I didn't want to get pulled into it too deep.
Yeah. Oh, I totally get it. Well, if you do, let me know how you like it. But I feel like, I feel like this is a perfect note to sort of wrap up on, because I think you've really described everything so just like so eloquently, and just the way that you share that, I think really exemplifies service, and
Oh,
really
thank you.
helps people understand it in a way that it doesn't feel like they're digging themselves a hole. Because I think when they hear service, it's used in so many different contexts. But I really love the way that you broke this down today. Um, and if you could share, just yeah, anything else that you'd like to share, or if you want to direct anyone to where they can find that group again.
Yeah, I'll be happy to. And one thing, can I challenge
Yeah,
everybody to something real quick?
go for it.
And I appreciate that too, because like what you were talking about with service, because I grew up, I remember being a young kid. I don't remember how old I was, but going with my mom to deliver Meals on Wheels, like in the summer, right? And you
Mhm.
think when people think of service, a lot of times they think of like volunteering. I'm just volunteering and volunteering but serving in business is actually, to me, when you think about how can I add value to this person, how can I help them achieve their aspirational future, get across the finish line, that to me is serving. And like you said, it's serving, and you're going to you're getting compensated for it, right, on different levels. There's levels
Mhm.
of serving where it's free, like doing podcasts. There's levels of serving where you're really compensated well in one-on-one situations. So yeah, I think it's just, I love the fact that people are starting to see it as a different way, and it doesn't feel like it's not volunteering. It's not giving until your cup's empty. In
Yeah.
fact, it's the opposite. It's like keeping your cup overflowing so you can continue to give to others. But what I want to challenge everybody with real quick. So sorry, I got off on that tangent.
It's all
I'd love
good.
to challenge everybody because I started doing this probably 3 months ago, maybe. I usually write down every morning. I write, I meditate, I write, I do gratitude, I do intentions, things like that. But one day it just came to me and I started writing this one phrase down. And what happened was almost miraculous. I started writing every day, I am being one who always creates positive outcomes and opportunities for myself and others. Right.
Wow.
Notice I put myself first because you have to keep your cup full. But here's the magic in that statement is that what I noticed was every interaction, no matter what, maybe your expectation was going into it, no matter how it turned out, it was always a positive result. Because you may have gone into an interaction thinking, like, oh, James and I are going to get on a discovery call and we're going to talk. I'm going to sign him up as a client. Turns out he's not the right fit or he's not ready yet. But then as I did this over and over, about 3 weeks into it, it started hitting me so strong. Like immediately I would start thinking, well, I know somebody that could help James. I got to connect him and start, it's like shifts your whole perspective, and it does it almost magically. So everybody, if you just start writing that down every day before you start your day and start interacting with others, you just write down, I am being one who always chooses to create positive outcomes and opportunities for myself and others. I promise you, if you do that every day, one day you'll just sort of notice that everything feels easy because everything's always going to shift to a positive outcome because you've already decided that you're creating that. So that's my challenge for everybody.
I
Um,
love that. I accept that challenge.
yeah,
Um, absolutely.
it really was. I'm not kidding. Like one day I just woke, I'm like, gosh, I've like these past few days have just felt so easy and calm and stress free. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, every person I'm talking to, I'm like, it's like, hey, you need to meet this person, or hey, let me tell you about this podcast I listened to. So it was always from a giving and serving place, but it was almost like it was just starting to get built into your DNA that you just did it effortlessly. So definitely do that. And then I'd love for anybody who's watching this to come over and join us in the Servepreneur movement. You can find it on Facebook. We're on Facebook now. I'm guessing, I'm sure. So the Servepreneur Movement is the name of the Facebook group. If you're watching this or hearing it off of Facebook, you can always go to servepreneurmovement.com and it'll send you over there. So yeah, I'd love to just meet everybody and learn how I could, collaborate, connect you with the right people, and bring you into a community where we're all growing together by bringing our best work into the world.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Evans, for taking the time to speak today and share about the group and just share your genius. And for anyone listening, I will be sure to put the link in the comments to the group. And as well, if you're looking for more conversations like this, you can always go to jmwhiteman.com. And I love to have just different conversations that bring up different aspects of business to help each of you move forward. So thank you, Evans. I super appreciate it. And I hope everyone has an amazing day. Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Grateful for the opportunity, James. And congratulations on the new place.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.